It's that new media company covering everything. I'm talking that news you ain't heard of, cause you know it's getting buried. Social justice, yeah, the stuff you need to know about. Fucking politics that the corporate news won't cover. You know they don't think that you could see under, but you can now, cause the people we cover, they may not be famous.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 420 Monday. For those of you waking and baking, welcome to the program. My name is Kerri, and I am here with Andy Kerri, my lovely co-host on this bright and sunny morning. There's no snow, so I am so happy. Good morning, Andy. How are you?
Good morning. I would say that there is snow. It's just not here.
That's true. I think, Colorado got some snow, so,
Screw them.
sorry.
They deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. You with your snow towns and skiing. And I actually, I spent much of my childhood in Denver. So hello to all of my family that I have just poo-pooed in Colorado.
I imagine skiing takes a bit of a different direction now when you have to swing your poles around to keep people away as you come skiing.
It's a weapon.
Out of control because you can't use your pole.
Yeah. But there was a picture that was circulating on the internet that I thought was just brilliant. It looked ridiculous, but an older gentleman from the Walmart collection of photos, he had taken pool noodles, which are 6 feet, and tied him to some sort of hat appliance he was wearing. So he had like this radiation of pool noodles all around him as a visible barrier for people to stay away from him. And I thought, while it looks great, probably not practical, but it's...
The other thing you have to worry about is if you walk around like that, you could look like a drink with 6 straws. Right? And then people suck your brains out.
Yeah, but it's Walmart, and
Oh, that's correct. Okay, so we're making an assumption about the brains.
so
Okay.
yeah, shout out to the women of Walmart. Check out their latest catalog and what is it, calendar. The 2020 Women of Walmart calendar is just superb.
Yes, and contrary to popular belief, they don't wear their underwear on the outside of their clothes in the calendar.
No, they don't.
Just
Well,
in the store.
I guess it depends. It no pun intended. It depends. So, yeah. So, all right. So we actually have a lot to talk about since Friday. The hits just keep coming with the insanity. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and shout out to John Oliver who covered this extensively, that the media on the right, we
And
see
you
it.
use that term loosely.
Yeah, so we have this problem with media all across the board on the left with the clickbaity stuff, and I'm not gonna name names yet, but I will at some point. That where they're all about generating the views and not about the integrity of reporting. They have no interest in reporting things that are factual and provable. They just want clickbait. So this has been a common thing for like Fox News. And two of their prominent co-hosts, besides doing the what was it, Coloquin or whatever medication, which has now affected lupus patients who have already been told, thank you for your sacrifice. Your prescriptions will not be filled because all of these crazy people are taking it because Trump told them to. So there's that. Sorry, people with lupus, you're the first patriots that get to die.
That's right. Bootstraps.
Right. But then it was Hannity and batshit crazy guy who's on the opioids.
Alex Jones.
No, wrong batshit crazy guy.
Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh. Yeah, the opioid addict.
It's a short list.
Yeah, it is a short. So they were both talking about how personal protective equipment like masks and gloves were just fine. And I couldn't help but compare and contrast to the show and tell episode that you did, Andy, about how to properly wear your mask and properly put on your gloves and remove them, because Sean Hannity was of the opinion, because he wants baseball so bad, that we could all fill into the stands with our masks and our gloves and be perfectly fine sitting right next to each other in little stadium seats, and it's totally cool. He did say that it's probably not a good idea to eat the popcorn, under your mask, because you're doing it constantly, but he did advocate for hot dogs. He said that you could just do your little mask and eat your hot dogs and you'd be totally fine. And I wanted to cry, but then in the back of my head, I'm thinking,
why lift your mask up? But that's unsafe. Just cut a hole in the front.
So in my head, I'm like, we would have an entire stadium full of Darwin Award contenders. Except that at some point they got to leave the stadium. If we could keep them all in the stadium, and feed them hot dogs, then maybe.
It takes an hour to leave a ballpark anyways. You went with social distancing, 6 feet apart. You might as well just stay for the next game.
Exactly. Just you live here now. You live in the stadium, and you're going to do your quarantine.
I'm self-isolating at Wrigley.
With 10,000 of my closest friends. So
that's right. But we've been here together for 3 hours, so there's no way any of us are going to infect anybody else.
Yeah, because that 3 hours is so important. We've all heard of the golden hour. I said hour, not shower. Golden hour.
It's insane. And this is an only in America story.
Is
right?
it?
This is
no one else
in
has
America.
this? You guys don't have this?
No, we don't. There's very few, the video from yesterday where the two healthcare workers were blocking the intersection because these people were protesting the pandemic response of self-isolating. And the argument was, well, they're fine. They're locked in their vehicles. They're not going to get anybody infected. It's just a protest like anybody else. Meanwhile, the video is of this carload of people. And they could all be family members, I'm not sure. But they're hanging out the windows with these signs. And the one woman was yelling, "If you want to be a communist, go to China."
Okay. All right.
You out of the June pool.
And this was my question on social media. So for any of our viewers, correct me. Please correct me. But when we had the protesters in Michigan and Minnesota and all of these other states at the Capitol building saying, reopen the state, what is preventing these people from doing exactly what they want to do? I mean, here in Illinois, it's a fine. It's a misdemeanor fine. If they can get a judge to sign off on a warrant for it. So why do the rest of us have to follow them off a cliff? Right? If they're so concerned and want to be such patriots, go to work. Go do. Nobody is stopping you from doing these things. Or you could take the unemployment extension at 100% of your wages and sit at home in your pajamas and wait it out like the rest of us. I don't understand the need to protest this one.
Exactly. And from what I understand about the American system and the minimum wage in most states, $1,200 a month is a raise.
Yeah, it is, especially when our median income, not the average, the median income has fallen over the last 5 years. We used to be at a whopping $49,000 for a family of 4. Now it's down to $42,000. But do you remember they were criticizing you're not poor if you have a refrigerator and a cell phone and things like that. So obviously we were making too much at $49,000 a year.
The audacity.
Right. So our median income has fallen now. So, and who was it? Steve, I can never pronounce his last name. I'm so sorry, Steve. Minuchin. It's fun to say, though. Minuchin.
It's the name that makes you, it works better if you do this. Minuchin.
You're right, it works. But he was.
Thank God he's rich. Minuchin.
Right. So he was quoted last week as saying that $1,200 is more than enough. So look, he's sideways. Turn your phone,
Joe.
Joe.
Defy gravity like that.
Joseph, turn your phone.
Oh no.
Turn your phone. So special guest this morning, Joe Traina formerly from Georgia or still in Georgia?
I haven't left yet.
Okay, so I don't want to give away the big surprise, but Joseph is in Georgia, and he joins us. If you haven't seen a previous interview that we did with Joseph, go watch it, especially if you like the inside shady stuff that goes on, and you want the details. Dish the tea. It is in there. Yes, absolutely. So,
Superhero.
welcome, Joe. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good to be here. Great to join.
Yeah, awesome. So, one of the things that you and I talked about over the weekend that I really wanted to talk about this morning was you have this wonderful politician down there, a state rep, Mr. Vernon, who is taking a little bit of heat because of his recent endorsement. So just so our audience knows, I'm going to put up a picture now of this wonderful representative of the state of Georgia and his quote, so everybody can see exactly what we're talking about. So this is Vernon Jones. He's a Democratic representative of the House District 9.
Democrat.
He's a Democrat, right? So here's some characteristics about his district. He represents 55,000 people. Of those, 26% are Caucasian, non-Hispanic. 66% are Black. 3.2 are Hispanic. Most of those people don't have a college degree, and about half of them are Georgia natives. So here's his quote. He came out with an endorsement for president for Donald Trump. And he was quoted as saying, "It's very simple to me. President Trump's handling of the economy, his support for historically Black colleges, and his criminal justice initiatives drew me to endorse his campaign." And this was quoted for Jones, who said he has no immediate plans to switch parties, right? So my question is there some talk that he might actually switch parties? And Joseph, what the hell? What is going on?
So Vernon Jones has always been a problem for a long time. Unfortunately, Vernon has never really been held accountable before, and now it finally took endorsing Trump for folks in the party leadership to act on, either replacing him in office or disowning him from the party, removing his affiliation. It's been a long time coming, and this is what happens when you get away with it. This is what happens when the Democratic Party has no teeth, aside from obstructing progressives, right? So while we couldn't pull the party leftward, or why we have so much obstruction from doing so, folks like this are in office and have been in office and stay in office, and don't feel obligated to our platform, obviously. when they go ahead and do things like endorsing Donald Trump here in the middle of the hot season here, where folks are starting to coalesce around their centrist candidate. Apparently Biden wasn't centrist enough for Vernon Johnson. And so it's really interesting to see. I know some of the party leadership in that area, and right now, unfortunately, they're having to fight the old guard on this. No, there's not even a consensus in that county about him. The other thing that I don't know if they pointed out.
Wait. Explain that a little bit. What do you mean
the old guard is protecting him? Even the old guard members that don't. And this is how insidious bureaucracies are, right? Where power just coalesces and where power just dictates to us. There's old guard members of the county committee in the cab there that are protecting him, saying we shouldn't revoke his affiliation. We shouldn't attack him. We shouldn't go after him, which is really interesting. Not just because obviously these folks have been they're just loyal at cost.
So they're loyal to the personality, not necessarily the party, or what are you saying?
I think it's a mix of we've been so conditioned not to challenge the status quo that even when they do something so heinous, the reflex of the status quo, of folks that are in charge, is to defend them. And I think that reflex has everything to do with the fact that if we do this to Vernon, we might start doing it to other Democrats that go out of line. And if we set a precedence for actually holding sitting Democrats accountable, then that's something that would be a dangerous precedent for folks that have just been sitting in these offices and not really adhering to the platform and not really speaking to progressive values. But yeah, it's really interesting to see. And there are some party leaders that are stepping up and really really showing leadership. Really showing that like they're not going to have any tolerance for this. And of course, no surprise, those folks are a part of progressive caucus, right? Those folks are the doers, the activists, the fighters, the ones that have been fighting for progress for a long time here. And so it's weird. It's just strange to see this rift show up. This division between progressives and centrists or moderates with status quo and new folks again. And it's something so heinous like this, it should really just be obvious what we have to do. We have to censor him. We have to revoke his affiliation. Make it very clear. We also have to run somebody against them. It's all of that. And there's somebody running against them, and the local county chair is pushing to endorse that person now. But the state leadership, the DNC members, the folks that are going to have votes on committees at convention are already saying, no, we gotta,
I'm gonna
can't blow this up. We can't do that. These folks are like, yeah, we don't like it, but we don't want to change all these rules, or we don't want to actually hold them accountable because that will mean, you might come for me later.
Well, to their point, they're kind of right, which leads me to my question, and I'm going to put you on the spot with this one. Those people who are defending him, could it be that they themselves are closet Republicans too? They're not centrists, they're actually Republicans in blue jumpsuits. So if you call out one of their own who has obviously gone overboard, they themselves become targets. Is that the case?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on your definition. If a Republican is someone who votes in a Republican primary or takes a Republican ballot, I don't know that these folks would qualify under that definition. But what is a Democrat? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just kind of like we've been trying to figure out like what does Democrat mean, and what is its use for us in this moment when you have folks like Vernon Jones out here who are functionally endorsing and campaigning Republicans. And you have others that will just bend at every you could present as a Democrat and still functionally provide no opposition. So it's like maybe they're Republicans, maybe they're just terrible Democrats. Either way, they're not doing us any good. So that's kind of that's my take on it.
Okay, so the bottom line on this is voters have to do a little bit of homework. We have to stop being lazy and looking at the D or the R behind somebody's name and actually look at the policies that they're advocating for, right? So
well, yeah, and I mean, and that should be a baseline. Really, we are having to. There's work and effort and agitation in trying to get folks to that, but that really should be the baseline. What it actually gets me thinking about is the fact that we've really got to act and behave as if they need us more than we need them, which has always been the case. When we actually change campaign economies and we change the way we function in civics, we can make the parties, any party, any elected person, have to react to us with responsibility to us. But that kind of brings me to this other thing that I'm gonna be launching and bringing in soon.
Hold on that point before you do that. This is a beautiful quote: changing the economy of campaigns. Right, so we call it on another level, changing, leveling the playing field, right? So, which is part of the reason why we started this network. It's incredibly difficult for a progressive candidate, a true progressive, to get media coverage, even in local newspapers, let alone get the news and information that we are interested in as progressives, which is not far left. We're actually the centrists of the party. So
we are the compromise.
right. So to that end, tell us about how you are going to work on the economy of campaigns.
Sure. So this is a 10-year in the making project. I've been studying so much about campaigns and why we lose and why we why we don't build capacity well on the left, and why we basically plan to just keep struggling because we won't change a lot of our mechanics, and that very economy that wastes and sort of sucks millions of dollars at the top of our structure. So what we're launching, and if folks want to get a little preview, they can go to the DandelionCollective.org. And we've got sort of a launch splash page that's waiting for them for the next couple hours until we're good to go and launch with everyone on board. We've got a team of organizers across the country here who are going to be working this interesting model. It's very simple, but it's also sometimes the most elegant solutions are the simplest, and really just meant to combine all the best practices of progressive organizing, coalition building, consensus organizing that have kind of collected over the last couple of years. And it's in concert with some really amazing organizers who right now, of course, are fresh out of work. Folks that are just leaving the Bernie campaign or were, really strong, incredible grassroots leaders in the Bernie movement, who many of which are already doing this work, but just need to get paid for it. So here's how we do it deliberately. Supporters will give organizers directly an income, $15 at a time. So what we're doing is we're democratizing the giving on Patreon, encouraging folks to follow this model with us and give as many organizers $15 a month as they can. And the value of that will be in the fact that we will have instantly an army of organizers that can work part-time, full-time. As much support as they get will determine how many hours they can give in a month. And right now there's so much need that, providing things like mutual aid and delivering water and food and delivering people to, resources that they need, as well as meal prep and, preparing masks and delivering those, as well as gloves and sanitizer. And so everything, there's so much to do. The need was already great in a lot of communities, and it's just up to 20 now. And what we want to do with that, opportunity to help is also build in a real coalition and networking and relationships with the folks that we serve, so that when it is time to act on these social issues with social justice and political action, we have real genuine connections to folks. And then it's also where we're going to pull our next best organizers from. There are communities where families and individuals understand the need better than we do. They have an intimate relationship with it. But we should be taking our privilege on the left and our privileges and actually deliberately directing that into this work, because this work is going to help us build political capacity, which is something the left has always been terrible at doing. It's something that the Democrats have just always we've sort of shot ourselves in the foot with, and it's because we've just remained beholden to bureaucracies that dictate to us how it is we're supposed to, what it is we're supposed to say, who to, and who do we follow. This is about changing all of that. Our organizers are going to do the leading. Our communities that we serve are going to inform the solutions that we create. We're going to genuinely build a coalition here. So when candidates want to run on, housing and income and employment and the environment and justice, there's already a working group out here that they need to talk to, and they'll need to get the endorsements from.
Okay, so I want to touch on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I want to touch on something that you mentioned, because it reminded me, we just did an interview with Marie Newman, and she was talking about, she had run for Congress against Dan Lipinski in 2018 and lost. But the time that she spent in between 2018 and now, when she won her race, the things that she was doing are exactly the things that you are talking about. She was educating herself better on her district, building those coalitions, volunteering for other candidates, volunteering for all of these different civic engagement type of things and social programs. And that helped her, she said, develop a better strategy. So when she ran again, she had built that network and had an intimate understanding that I think ultimately, when she gets to Congress, is going to serve her in advocating for her district. So interesting that you're taking these same ideas and applying them to all of these other causes.
Yeah, well, so I mean, the movement we have a void to fill right now. People want to know what we do next, how we do it, and where we go, what it looks like. And this is filling a need. The movement can show up right now. In a time when folks are not sure, where the next meal is going to come from, or what the next job opportunity is going to be, what their treatment's going to be like there. While corporations are exploiting the fact, that folks are suffering right now, we should be organizing for folks that are, in the middle of a rent strike, or in the middle of labor negotiations, benefit negotiations. Child care. We have a platform already. We don't have to reinvent the platform. We just need to get in the community and build with people so that the platform is better understood, and the proof is in the work that we do. And this would cost. This is another piece of the economy that we're trying to change here in campaigning and how we win on the left. This would be much more efficient than top-down campaign structures and mechanics. Because the dollars go directly from the movement to the grassroots, and go to the ground, essentially. Involvement in this collective is open to anyone and everyone. You can be a supporter, you can be an organizer, and you can be a volunteer. And all of those are going to be central, so that these areas that have great need and have great talent to address them can end up turning out to be the best political teams for candidates that run. And another thing that's going to happen is the best candidates to run for office are going to come from this collective. It's going to come from the organizers that hone their skills and are able to work full-time or part-time, depending. Ultimately, the goal is for every organizer who's a part of this to become full-time. And that would only take 200 supporters each, and then we can all share supporters. So 200 of my supporters can also fund another organizer for about the same as what they were already giving to the Bernie campaign. And it's going to happen anyways. We work all over the country. So we're excited to launch it. We're excited to launch it with some really talented folks today. And about a dozen organizers all over the country. And then very quickly, the dominoes they're just going to keep continuing. All the really talented organizers that we want to grow, we want to bring in, and who already are passionate about doing this work. We're gonna give the autonomy and the freedom to do the work, and that's another big piece of this. Campaigns are a place where sometimes revolutions go to die. Bureaucracies are places where sometimes progress just goes to be stalled and overcomplicated. But organizers are innovative, and organizers are passionate, connected, and will go seeking and finding needs to fill. And so with this model, we trust them to do that. You're obligated to your supporters, you're obligated to each other and to the Bernie platform. But aside from that, you are free to be a whole person, and that's something we have to change in campaign cultures. This obligation, is to be overly careful and unnecessarily, sort of constricted is a problem that is inherent in bureaucracy. So we're not a PAC, we're not a party, we're not a nonprofit, we're not a business. We're literally just a model. It's an idea tied together by memorandums of understanding between members, and which opens up folks' ability to, outside of the work, outside of showing up and helping agencies that are helping other communities, so we don't have to reinvent those wheels. Outside of that, if you want to work on reforming the party, cool, that's your off time. If you want to be in the Green Party, cool, that's your off time. If you want to work with the 5 socialist parties that are about to shoot up, you go ahead. You're gonna have time to do that. We want to create an economy of more autonomy and more ability for folks, so we're not we're not dependent on the same oppressive systems of boom bust, wealth and income. And when the movement funds it and they don't buy us, and the corporations and parties and other entities don't control us, they don't cut our checks, I think it's really going. I know that it's really going to change how powerful we are, how sincere we are, how we're received, and how effective we can be going forward. It'll actually be a more it will be leveling the playing ground in a lot of ways between us and the right too, because they have been doing this for generations.
Right.
What I'm describing is not necessarily new, it's just a better version for us of what a lot of times the right's been doing to consolidate and keep power. So.
Right. So you said it best. It's by us for us. So it absolutely makes sense. So for those just tuning in, we're talking to Joseph Traina out of Georgia, who you are relocating now, right?
Yeah, this is right. So anyway, I haven't even sent the email yet. I drafted it, but today I'm resigning from my position, which is unfortunately just not a good fit for me anymore. I was organizing with a company that, an organization that I had hoped was going to be a de facto Bernie organizing unit. And now, of course, that's no longer in the cards. I've also had some other issues with where I fit in there. And again, just speaking to, if we can organize ourselves, then we don't have to be beholden to any big money in this. And so it is very true to the values of the mission and true to what I'm trying to achieve here. I just have to leave. Today I'm quitting my job. I'm getting in a Jeep with a trailer, and I'm heading out to LA to go start doing this work. And one of the first things I'm focusing on is the fact that reservations have been cut off from water. And so we need as many folks who can help get water to them to get to that work. And I'm joining a cohort of really talented, passionate former Bernie organizers, and we're going to sort of Silicon Valley it. We're going to start this thing up. We're going to stay in a place together. We're going to get to this work every day and show folks the real value of what trusting and giving organizers an income means for the movement. How much stronger we can be when all of us who would love to. I think we've all said at some point, folks who are passionate about this work. I think we've all said, what if I could just do this? If I could just get paid to do this, how much more powerful could I be? And then there are different capacities to doing that, right? So one organizer's work is going to look a little different than others, but in the collective, we're going to lean on each other to make each other better. And if you've had experience with a rent strike, and I've had experience with immigration stuff, we will tap into each other's strengths, and instead of again having to reinvent wheels or retrain whole new skills in whole new places, we'll have a national collective of organizers who are incentivized to show up and help each other and train each other and empower each other so that energy is really felt for the folks that we need to help and in the communities that need to be empowered.
Well, this sounds like amazing, exciting work. So we have this media platform here, Joseph. We also have a really good relationship with you, and we know a lot of the organizers that you're working with. So how can we best support you and elevate the message and get the word out? Will you stay in contact with us and maybe, come back, report on it, give us some, especially the work that you're doing on reservations and things with Indigenous people. This is so important, and definitely something that our audience in particular is going to want to know more information about. So, can we?
Yeah, I mean, a pandemic is a terrible time for everyone, but you add on just being completely cut off from water sources. It's just the government of our history, of our identity here, just giving another FU, another middle finger to these communities. And this work is meant to have a real reparations component to it. We know that we're going to be working in communities that have been traditionally obstructed from political power, and it's going to be intentionally part of our work to not only develop and learn and grow and build together. It's going to be our responsibility to make sure the next best organizers come directly from those communities and are the next best leaders, to represent them. So the work is important. It's exciting to build with so many amazing people. It's exciting to sort of break this news here with you guys. And if folks want to jump on board and start helping us, either by becoming a supporter or a volunteer, please go ahead to our launch page. And you can also find me on Patreon.
What's that launch page address again? Go ahead and say it.
Yeah, it's the Dandelion Collective.org.
Okay.
The DandelionCollective.org. And then I'm on Patreon. I can shoot a link to you guys for that. It's just patreon.com/Joe Traina, JoeTraina. I'm going to need some gas money getting out there. So if you guys want to go ahead and help me out and join up, it's $15 a month. And so for the entire year, it's $180. And some folks were giving, well over that to Bernie and not really, and then not able to extrapolate or track the value of it in their own communities or on a daily basis to see, where it's going. As a member, a supporter member of folks in the collective, every day, every week, your organizer is going to show you the process, show you how they're doing it, what they're doing. You're going to get to watch them do it and know that, and take pride in that it was really made that possible for them to do this work full time or for any amount of time. So, yeah.
Joseph, this is amazing, and thank you for breaking the news with us this morning. We appreciate it. Get up early, people, and you get the info. So, Dandelion Collective.
Let me thank what you got going on here. You guys have been amazing, and Kerri and I have been confidants for many fun conversations over the years with wild and crazy. And now I think we have an opportunity here to jump from wild and crazy to real directed and collective.
Absolutely.
So thanks again for blasting it, guys.
Yeah, no problem. So we will post the link to your organization, and then I am going to stay on you so that we can get the information out and help support your efforts here and get this thing off the ground. So Joseph, thank you so much for being with us. Again, that's the DandelionCollective.org, and we will blast out that link everywhere. And Joseph, definitely going to hold you to keeping us updated and informed. But thank you so much for joining us this morning, and good luck on your drive.
Yeah. I'll take you guys with me.
Awesome.
Somebody should monitor him on GPS to make sure he actually gets there.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
I'll make sure I live update. I'll make sure I Facebook and Twitter update for everybody.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Right.
Excellent. Thank you, Joseph. Good luck with your drive.
So you guys.
Thank
Thanks for being in coalition with me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're going to switch gears. Andy Kennedy, who is the lovely and nice Canadian, has an epic rant for us today. So, Andy, I'm going to sit here and sip my coffee, and you're going to do your thing. Go for it.
Well, right now, I'm very, very upset with the narrative that's coming out of a lot of now what I guess we can describe as ex-Bernie supporters, right? God's sakes, people, let's take a step back and analyze what's happened. Anybody that feels betrayed, how dare Bernie get out of the race now? How dare he drop out, which he hasn't. dropped out. He suspended his campaign, which is a very different animal than dropping out. But let's take a look at what's actually occurred and maybe try to put some logic to why this has happened. Because you don't, unless you're armed with all the information about what's going on, or even have an idea of how certain entities like the DNC works, or the separate state chairs that run each primary work, then you really are just making a guess at what you think has happened. And anybody that is all, oh, Bernie's an asshole, how dare he abandon us, this, you're really basing your decision process on bad information. Okay. And the problem with that is that what this does is it hurts the movement. And this was never about just Bernie. And thinking that the movement is dead because Bernie is no longer running for president is short-sighted, and you really don't have any idea of what the actual movement is all about. We have a ton of people that now are in progressive, that are progressives, that are now running for office because of the movement that Bernie started, right? Let's remember this 2020 tagline starts with the two words, not me.
Yes.
Okay? He's referring to himself, not me. See how that works? So what's going to happen is now, Bernie's done his run, right? He's engaged. How many volunteers did we were talking about? 4 million at last count? You know, raised the absolute most money of any candidate in the history of the United States without any PAC money whatsoever. That's amazing. And that's exciting because it shows how many of us are out there. Bernie Sanders has been a public servant for most of his adult life. And he's lived by the same ideals. They haven't changed in 50 plus years. Last week, Bernie didn't get up and say, fuck it, I'm getting mine. Right? Bernie Sanders, I've heard people say, if only he'd attacked Biden stronger, right? I've heard other pundits say that it was a pillow fight. This was just a pillow fight. But Bernie, all he had to do was attack Biden on his record. Bernie has always been about policy, about talking about policy. Why? Because we shouldn't be including personal attacks in our candidacies, because it's not about the person, it's about instigating policy that helps people. Bernie's always been about that. He has always been successful in talking about that. We now have a movement of people like Joseph Traina, like everybody else that's running, you know, Lauren Ashton, Steve Buttar, all of these new people running for office that are all about progressive movements, that making lives better. My friend Fadl Kaboub, who is an associate professor of economics at Denison University in Ohio, now has a list of over 200 people running for higher office in the United States that all understand MMT. They all get it, and they're all running completely on progressive platforms. And they're all grassroots funded, and they're all expected to do very well. This is a very amazing time to be a progressive.
Wait, I gotta jump in on that, because that is big news, right? So I'll admit that when I first came to modern monetary theory, it was the same effect where first, when I was listening to it, and I think Fidel was one of the people, and Rohan Gray that I listened
Yes.
to. And I thought, these people are insane. I was like, there is no way that what they're saying is absolutely true. How could it be that politicians and government representatives would be lying to us about how money actually works? It was the equivalent of telling me that Santa Claus didn't exist. And then I started doing my own research, and everybody comes to that realization like, holy shit, it is true. And right now, under this COVID, we're seeing it. We're seeing the evidence of all of these economic principles that we have been taught falling away. And these principles that are taught by Fidel Kaboub and all of these world-class economists is actually true. The way that money is created in a fiat currency, right? So we have a number of interviews with Warren and other people that you can check out. And then Andy happens to be one of the premier producers of podcasts. So I'm going to make a plug for Macro and Cheese. That's Macro, N, the letter N, and Cheese. Go check this stuff out. But to your point, with all of these candidates now who understand the fundamental principles of how macroeconomics actually works. When I have my own Congressman, Sean Casten, you're an asshole, and you know this, tell me, how are we going to pay for it when I'm talking about Medicare for all? He needs to go. And I need him replaced with someone who actually understands how macroeconomics actually works. Because I have people dying in my district, his district, right now, because he refuses to learn it. So having a list of 200 people who are willing to step up, put their lives on hold, and go represent their district, and have that fundamental understanding of how we invest in resources that's huge. That is a moment where if we can get these people elected, that 50, 60, 100 years from now, this will be the moment that the history books talk about. We turn the corner to a compassionate economy.
Well, and all you have to do right now is look what's happening in full view in even MSM right now, okay? We have an entire sets of economies worldwide that are completely shut down, like stagnant, not moving, right? Businesses are shuttered now. And we look at all of that and say, okay, well, nobody's participating in the economy except for maybe keep feeding themselves. That's fine. But we look at the stock market, right? And overall, the stock market over the last month and a half of this pandemic has lost approximately 8 to 9% of its value. How is it that the stock market continues to do well in an economy that's been shut down? Maybe the federal government is using the Fed's power to keep the stock market liquid by being the buyer of last resort at perhaps $1 trillion a day for a month.
Oh, and maybe the stock market is not a good measure of how the overall economy and the realization of the workforce. It's not a good measure for how well your economy is doing. It's a measure of one market performance, but not the working people. So we have learned that small business is the economic engine of every country. This is why a country like Germany was able to bounce back faster from the last recession, the global recession, because they had more manufacturing in country, small businesses. Here in this country, in the United States, under Bush, we lost 60,000 manufacturing facilities. So it's going to take us longer because my mom and pop bakery, while it is an economic engine for Main Street where I live, it doesn't necessarily affect the town next to me the way that a manufacturing facility would. And we're seeing this, we opened the show talking about the poor people who are dependent on their medication to treat lupus. 90% of all of our medications are sourced, the ingredients are sourced from China, shipped to India for manufacturing. So we're starting to see, and I'm going to call you out, CVS doing price gouging with medications across the board and denying people their access to medication. It takes longer to get your medication. I'm now on week 2, waiting for a refill on one of my prescriptions. So,
well, and a colleague of ours who had a liver transplant needs to take a medicine daily so that she doesn't suffer from organ rejection, right? Mm-hmm. She said the last time I talked to her, she said she had 2 months worth of medication left. What happens when that runs out?
That's exactly.
She doesn't get that medication, she's not going to survive, right?
Right.
So we talked about it in our last podcast last week with Steve Keen, that he did some looking into it, and the iPhone is made in concert with 43 countries. These 43 countries all add parts and assembly processes to make a single iPhone. Well, if any one of those countries shuts production down because of the pandemic, people aren't getting iPhones, right? I went through that last week. I'm looking to upgrade my video camera, right? My current video camera is on the Spectrum. But regardless, we're looking at, getting a decent camera for me. I found one place that has them in stock, and the delivery date was July 7th, right? We're running out of things because everything is made in China. They shut down.
Right. And I remember saying, okay, so we have to go in the Wayback Machine, but Walmart used to have that. I know, but they were so big on the Made in America campaign, which was great. I loved it. Every country should have their own manufacturing, textiles, all of this. We should all have it. And then when they found out that they could do price gouging and shift to things made cheaply in China, maybe with PBAs or carcinogens, didn't matter. They could sell it cheaply, and in so doing, run out the other competition in their area. So it's almost like the policies that we have been talking about for 20 years, not only are they true, but they actually save lives. And what a concept. So I'm going to go back to the conversation I had with my father. Dad, if you're watching, we talked about this. 20 years ago, I used the F word, and he came down on me so hard. And the F word I said was fascism. Because what I would do is look at what was going on. I was like, I'm pretty sure that I studied this in high school, and then in my poli-sci classes in college, again, I studied this, and this looks a lot like fascism to me. A lot when we talk about, we call it the oligarchs. But in reality, the oligarchs are the scions of business who have purchased our representatives, our congresspeople, and influence them unfairly to make laws and policies or rollback regulations that favor them. What's the difference between that and fascism? The only difference is the authoritarian rule of it. However, we're there now, and we were there before. This is not a brand new under Trump. This has always been coming. And I think it goes back to the conversation we just had with Joseph. Just because someone has a D behind their name doesn't make them a Democrat or doesn't make them an advocate for policies that the Democratic Party says they believe in.
Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear that the D and the R are basically just the faction that you're in of a single party.
Right.
You have one party right? And in the United States, and the D and the R, the Democrat and the Republican, are just factions of that single party. Like when we're talking about, people are talking about making a viable third party in the United States. You're actually talking about making a viable second party.
Well, that's absolutely right, and I'm going to go back to and with my last breath explaining progressive policy is fiscally responsible, and it works for everyone. So it is the center.
And it tastes great too.
Exactly. You'll feel much better. Come to the center. So for those who are listening, I wholly support the Dem Inter thing. Go for it. Good luck to you. We absolutely support that. For those who are looking at creating a viable opposition party who is opposed to the oligarchs, who is opposed to the fascists, who is opposed to all of these policies now that are literally killing us. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And I am all for it. So between these two arguments, maybe we can get somewhere this time. And you know, the projects that Joseph's working on, what we're doing here, help level that playing field just a little bit. I mean,
there's enough people in the movement, right? We've already shown how many people are in this movement. If the primary elections weren't rigged, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because Bernie would be the leader in delegates, and he would be going on to run for the Democrats as a candidate for the presidency. But unfortunately, we live in that world. Right, but there's enough people in this movement that there's enough room if you're on the Dem Enter or the Dem Exit side. Just keep doing what you're doing. Whoever gets there first, then we'll decide then when we get there.
Yeah.
But there's still right now. I want to stress to everyone that this pandemic is going to get so much worse, especially in the United States. You ain't seen nothing yet, especially on top of the fact that you now have Republican and Democratic governors talking about reopening their states. Well, they haven't got a handle on anything. Nope. They haven't flattened the curve in any way. People are still getting sick and are dying. The only reason they want to open their states is because their owners aren't making money right now. That's the only reason. If they cared about you, they would keep the states closed until people stop dying from this. But that's not the case, and they don't care about you. You're going to have to make the decision to keep self-isolating and do a renter's strike and not work, right? If you want to stay alive, because it's only going to get worse.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And thank you for your sacrifice. So on that note, we're going to get out of here. But real quick, a couple updates, highlights for the week ahead, since it is Monday. Happy 420. And Andy mentioned Lauren Ashcraft. She is actually on the docket for interviews this week, along with a number of other good activists and candidates. So our goal is to keep all of this information out there and keep you informed of what's going on. We also want to send a special thank you to our newest patron member on Patreon, Dean Martin. Thank you so much. Your contribution this weekend helped pay for software so that we can continue bringing some of this programming to you. For anyone else who'd like to join him and support progressive networks and programmings, we are on Patreon/Progressive Insider. Real easy to find. You can pick your membership level, and there are exclusive benefits just for our Patreon members. So you get to chat with Andy and do all sorts of really cool things. So we thank you for that. And then we've got some more additions coming up for our website. And as always, since this is a network by us for us, send us your information, your tips, programs that you're doing. Joseph reached out and talked about what he was working on, so we are more than happy to spread the information in the news. So send it into our Facebook page, on our Twitter, website, any of our social channels. We're happy to take a look and talk to you about some of the programs that you're working on that people should get involved in. So With that, I am completely out of coffee, Andy.
Oh, shit, I ran out 10 minutes ago.
You need a bigger coffee cup, which, by the way...
That's coming on Wednesday, trust me. You will be in awe of my coffee mug.
Oh, well...
I had to weld a second handle on it.
Lift it up with a pulley system.
Yes, I call it my Mad Max cup.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing it. So, with that, I am Kerri, and Andy is phoning it in from Canada.
Phoning it in again.
Right. So, thank you everybody for watching this morning, and we will be back on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. So, stay tuned.
Yeah. Take care.
This is Progressive Insider.
Yeah, Progressive Insider, you know they wiser. This that new media company covering everything. I'm talking that news you ain't heard of.